Happy New Year. Welcome back to Disengaged, the podcast. I'm Leah Harding, your host. Can you believe Disengaged just turned 1 year old? We did it. We did the first year. People say the first year is the hardest. I don't know who actually says that, but I'll say that the first year is a hard thing to get up and running, anything that's new. But I'm so glad that we did and that we turned this crazy idea into a reality. And so starting off 2026, it's just nice to be here with you. We don't have a guest this week. It's just the two of us. And I just wanted to touch base. We've had incredible guests all season long, but I haven't been able to just talk you and me and let you in on some of the things that I'm going through and hope that they resonate with you, especially in the start of a new year. I've seen a lot of people making mood boards and different projections for their year, trying to set themselves up for success. And I haven't done that in that way. I have been trying to think of a way in which I was going to go into 2026 a different person, and thinking of ways in which I could look inward and grow without, cutting up a newspaper or finding all these different clips in a magazine. Nothing against that, but I was wondering if I could do it more like in my head instead of through an action. Well, the second day of this year, my grandfather unexpectedly died. I say unexpectedly. We all had said goodbye to him multiple times, over the course of several years, but he was doing really well overall. And his mind was sharp. His body was pretty good. He and his wife lived alone, and he was 97. He was actually irritated when he went to the doctor a few months ago because he wondered why he was not a candidate for a lung transplant. And the doctor was like, bro, you're 97. That's not going to happen. So as we're processing the new year, going into the new year, on January 2nd, boom, we get a call. Papa is dead. And it really started the year off on what I would say a probably pretty bad foot. But it was this feeling of choosing between grieving and also having joy for his life because he didn't suffer at all. But I don't know, it just was oh, okay, I was looking for a way to go into this year with a bit of a clear head and with a new pack of ammo and recharging the batteries and going in a bit more clear-eyed. And then this happens, and which means that there was a funeral. So this last weekend we had a funeral for my grandfather, and it's weird. You see family that you haven't seen in a while, and as much as you love each other, it all boils down to a 15 to 30 second conversation about what you're doing. Where are you? What are you doing? Who do you love? Anything new? And after 30 seconds, people honestly lose interest. I'm from a big family, so it's this conversation on repeat throughout the entire funeral process. And I haven't really quite known what to say. I am in between a lot of things, but then I'm also in a lot of things work-wise, including hosting and producing this podcast with my mighty but small team. And when my family is asking me to give me the rundown of, okay, who are you? Where are you? What are you doing? I was wow, here early on in the year, I get to say really anything that I want because so much is up in the air right now for me. As many of you know, I was working in the Middle East for almost a decade, came back to the United States, tried to find work, really struggled, and then decided to go to grad school, something that I had wanted to do. And I just graduated at the end of December. So I am finished with my master's and I have been job hunting. I'm reminded of times in my career when I knew that I had the skills to do something, i.e. when I was pretty fresh at my previous job as a reporter, and it came time from being a producer. There is a time when you cross over to being a reporter. There is that first live hit where you are no longer a producer. You are now reporting and you're in front of the camera. You've watched it happen a million times. You've written these words a million different times, but for you to actually get up there and do it, you say you can do it, so do it, prove it. And it's so scary to say, okay, I'll prove it. It usually is met with initially some mistakes, a little bit of tripping, but you've got to actually do the thing that you want to do in order to do the thing that you want to do. It seems so simple, but cognitively, it's very difficult to get past that initial feeling of inadequacy and imposter syndrome. I saw a great meme yesterday that said, you can do anything, just look at Justin Trudeau's resume. He went from a ski instructor to a writer to a radio host for CBC to Prime Minister of Canada and now Katy Perry's boyfriend. And it's like, you can do anything, like there's no such thing as a pivot that's too far, but you have to allow yourself to actually do the thing instead of just talking about it. And that is so much of what this podcast is all about, that you are capable of so much more than society and yourself tell you are. And getting out there and doing the thing that's scary is the best way, and sometimes the only way, for personal growth and for expanding your horizons and for actually getting out of the rut that you find yourselves in. That's how it's been for me. You're in a relationship that's not working. You talk about getting out of it. Well, there does come a point where you either get out of it or you don't. Can you actually get out of it? Yes, you can, is the answer. I mean, there's a lot of different variations of what that might look like for everyone. And of course, abuse changes that. Financial manipulation or control change that greatly. But ultimately, you can get out of it. In my case, I'm applying for jobs, but then a job actually comes along that's a great fit. Can I allow myself to actually trust that I can do this job and actually get out there and do it? Yes, but there is a hurdle. It doesn't just happen. And we are all on this track that ends in death. I know that sounds super morbid, but like my granddad lived his whole life, did everything he could, did everything he wanted to do, and then he died. And then it's over. And like there is no redo, there is no what ifs. What he did are things he did, and that's it. There's now a period at the end of his life here on earth. And so what is keeping me from striving and from being bigger, from growing? It honestly is myself. Whatever pivot or change you are going through, just know that the no's do not mean that you shouldn't have made that jump. You don't really know what's going to happen when you take a jump and a leap. And I'm very glad that I did not know what was coming when I decided to quit my job. If I did know how many no's and how much pushback I would get from doing that, I never would have left. And you know what? I wouldn't have grown in the ways that I have since leaving, like at all. I have grown in ways that I did not even know growth was possible. My branches have grown leaves that are shapes and colors that I had only ever thought of for other people, not for myself. And so much of this journey has been allowing myself to receive these redirections because I am worthy and I am able to pivot and to receive these life gifts that come from bravery and from stepping off the ledge. And that is the case for you as well. You are completely deserving of the pivot or that change that your gut is alerting you to. That other life that seems like it's not ever going to be possible is possible. The road to get there, tumultuous, treacherous, absolutely difficult. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't get on that road and at least start the journey. Start allowing yourself to see yourself in that new chapter, despite all of the things that tell you that that is not going to happen for you, that you're not actually the one who's deserving of it. A bigger example of this would be Taylor Swift, my personal idol. I'm obsessed with her. All things Taylor, I'm just like, yes, I can get behind that. But she started out her career singing to like 3 or 4 people, like not a big deal. But believing in herself that actually what she was wanting to do was meant for her and she could get to that point. But no one else saw that, but she did. And she had to convince other people that that was who she was and let them give her a chance. And, stacking each tiny Lego on top of the other Lego to make this huge giant castle of what we know Taylor Swift to be today. And it's like, oh, Taylor Swift is just Taylor Swift. She is her own goddess, her own entity, but she had to see that end result to be able to get to that end result. What she couldn't see was all the work between performing for 3 people to performing for 10 million people throughout the Eras Tour. All of the not being able to own her masters and the people that came after her, the snakes, the liars, the attackers, the scandals, all of that. She did not know that any of that would happen, but she knew that she was capable of filling stadiums. And that is what she kept her mind towards, despite everything else telling her otherwise. And I think that is such a valuable lesson to really ruminate in and to soak up going into this new year. That we can cut out the pictures in the magazine and have these vision boards. That's great. But just know that it is possible. I know many people don't believe in manifesting, but if you don't believe that you are worthy or able to achieve something different, you're essentially manifesting that you are going to pretty much stay the same. And not necessarily in all elements, but your situation probably won't change as much if you are just wanting to not manifest and not dream. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Another Taylor Swift lyric, can't take credit for that one. But you have to be able to see yourself in that new thing and know that you are totally 100% God-given right, able to get there. But the voices, man, they're so loud. I go into detail about what 2025 looked like for me in my latest Instagram post. So if you want to check that out at via_Leah, I go month by month through my year, just trying to summarize what each month was for me in my journey throughout the year. And that process in and of itself was very helpful to be able to, in hindsight, in retrospect, look at each month for the building block that it was. I needed April and July in order to have what I had in October. But when you're in the thick of it, it's very hard to see that. So I have this vision of where I want to be. Now I just have to fully allow myself to believe that I can do that. I have the skills. It's like 23-year-old Leah when I knew, okay, election night 2015 was going to be my first time on air for Al Jazeera. It's sink or swim, baby. I knew I had the skills. I knew it was a big jump. But I knew that I could do it and I could swim. And sure enough, was it scary? Was it hectic? Was it wild? Yes, but I swam. I was right. My goal of getting to that point and all of the work that I put in to get there, it doesn't go away when you get to that end goal. You're building and you get to take all of this expertise with you. And it just shows the importance of really putting in the work of whatever the skill is. And because I have been unemployed officially for as long as I have been able to take on clients and do consulting one-on-one with different clients and different agencies. And those gaps that I was filling through my consultancy has actually set me up beautifully. And so had I not had this gap, I would not have been forced into putting in the work to try to stay afloat and to actually explore this new realm for myself. And now that I am faced with the moment of, okay, perform, do the thing, pull through, I have to count on my training, trust your training. It's the Olympic beam routine. I'm about to put my hands on the beam, and I know I have done everything that I can in my power up until that point to prepare me for this point. And I've got to just do the thing. It is scary, but I've got to do the thing. This was a great exploration of self and a reset, the very reset and boost that I needed to start off this year, knowing that this vision that I have of myself and of my life is 100% possible. And I can get there. It might take a little longer. It certainly has taken longer than I thought. But this season of mourning and then of joy, my sister got engaged, of looking ahead at looking forward to the wedding, but then also family gatherings without my grandfather, the tension of feelings and all of that, and the work that I have put in, but then the lack of opportunities that I seem to be getting from all these applications, all of these things, hold them, learn from them, walk through them, but still I must keep my eye on the goal of where I do see myself. So this was a rant. And it was fun. I'm glad that I did it. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. And we will be back in 2 weeks with another guest and to kick off 2026 over and over again, keeping that momentum going throughout the whole year. So thank you so much for joining me. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you're like, oh my gosh, that's me, send us a comment. We're at Disengaged Podcast on Instagram. You can also write me from my website, leahharding.com, and you can go from there to disengagedpodcast.com as well. There are comment tabs in both. As always, this podcast was produced by the Anthology Group.